The Galactic Empire stood as a monolith of power, its influence stretching across countless star systems. For centuries, it had ruled through fear, subjugating weaker civilizations with overwhelming force. But humanity, the newest entrant to the galactic stage, had proven to be a peculiar anomaly. They did not bow easily, nor did they crumble under threats. Instead, they negotiated, outmaneuvered, and allied themselves into a position of strength that unsettled the Empire's leadership. Within the hallowed chambers of the Imperial Council, the Emperor's advisors convened in hushed urgency. The meeting's purpose was clear. The rising influence of humanity had to be contained before it became uncontrollable. Words like clever manipulators and untrustworthy upstarts were tossed around, dripping with disdain. But one name resonated above the rest: Alexander Ivanov, the human diplomat who had single-handedly brokered peace between warring factions and turned enemies into allies. The humans rallied behind him like he's some mythical hero, growled an advisor with crimson scales. Eliminate him and their unity fractures. The Emperor sat on his ornate throne, his gaze piercing the room. This Alexander Ivanov, he's just a man. Why does his reputation precede him as though he's invincible? A pale, insectoid strategist clicked its mandibles. Because the humans have cloaked him in legend. They call him the Baba Yaga. In their culture, it is a figure of nightmares, a harbinger of doom. It's psychological warfare. The Emperor's golden eyes narrowed. Legends can be broken. Dispatch the operatives. I want him removed quietly. No one must trace it back to us. On Earth, Alexander Ivanov prepared for his next mission with the calm precision of a seasoned strategist. His outward appearance was unassuming, mid-40s, sharp features, always dressed in impeccably tailored suits. Yet those who worked closest to him knew there was something unsettling beneath the surface. His eyes were too calculating, his movements too precise, his words chosen with surgical intent. Alexander's past was a puzzle few dared to solve. Whispers in human circles spoke of his time in Black Ops during humanity's early interstellar years. Others speculated he had been forged in Earth's coldest wars, where decisions were made in shadows, and survival depended on ruthlessness. The truth was buried beneath layers of secrecy, but one fact remained unchallenged: Alexander Ivanov got results. His next assignment took him to the neutral station Lissos 5, a hub of intergalactic diplomacy where deals were made, and allegiances shifted like quicksand. The official agenda was peace talks between humanity and the Galactic Empire. Unofficially, Alexander knew the Empire wanted his blood. He had intercepted subtle signals, noted the unusual quiet in their posturing. They were plotting something. As he boarded the transport vessel, he reviewed the information his team had gathered. The Empire had never directly attacked a human official before. Doing so risked war. Yet Alexander sensed desperation in their movements, a crack in their calculated facade. In his private quarters, Alexander opened a hidden compartment. Inside lay tools of a past life: a compact blade, a modified plasma pistol, and a device that emitted electromagnetic pulses. He inspected each item with meticulous care, not out of nostalgia, but because preparation was the difference between survival and failure. Before the ship docked at Lissos 5, he sat by the viewport watching stars streak by. His mind sharpened with singular focus. The Empire didn't realize they weren't hunting a diplomat. They were summoning something far darker. The nickname his people whispered in reverence, Baba Yaga, wasn't an idle moniker. It was earned in blood, forged in countless operations where Alexander had been the shadow that ended threats before they began. He had abandoned that life for diplomacy, but some lessons never left him. The Empire thought they could kill a man. They had no idea they were dealing with a legend. The neutral station Lissos 5 buzzed with activity, its corridors teeming with representatives from dozens of species. Alexander moved through the throng with quiet confidence, every step calculated. He exchanged polite nods and brief pleasantries, masking the heightened state of awareness that churned beneath his composed exterior. Years of experience had taught him to read a room, to sense the subtle undercurrents of tension. Something was off. The conference hall was vast, lined with banners of the participating factions. The Galactic Empire's delegation stood out, their posture rigid, their expressions unreadable. Alexander noted the subtle glances they exchanged, the way their security personnel seemed more focused on him than the surroundings. He suppressed a smile. They thought they were predators stalking prey. When a server approached with a tray of drinks, Alexander's instincts flared. The droid's movements were too smooth, too deliberate. As it offered him a glass, he caught a faint shimmer on the rim, a chemical agent designed to blend into the beverage. Without hesitation, he accepted the drink with one hand while gesturing to a nearby alien delegate with the other. A toast to mutual understanding, he said smoothly, offering the glass to his unwitting target. The Empire's representative stiffened as the alien sipped the drink, oblivious to the invisible danger. Alexander's smile remained intact, his eyes flicking toward the Imperial delegation. Their plan was unraveling and they knew it. Excusing himself, he left the hall, ostensibly to review notes for the upcoming negotiations. In truth, he was drawing the assassins into his web. The corridors of Lissos 5 were a labyrinth, and Alexander moved through them with the ease of someone who had memorized every turn. He entered a maintenance wing, the hum of machinery masking his steps. The Empire's operatives followed. They were an elite unit, handpicked for their skill and ruthlessness. A team of 6, armed with concealed energy weapons and cloaking devices. They believed they were invisible, but Alexander had already marked their positions. Their subtle shifts in movement, the faint disruptions in the air, they were ghosts, but ghosts left traces. As the first assassin raised a weapon, Alexander struck. He disarmed the alien with a single, fluid motion, using the creature's own momentum to slam it into the wall. The second operative lunged, but Alexander anticipated the move, sidestepping and driving an elbow into its throat. He moved with a precision that bordered on supernatural, each strike efficient, each movement calculated to incapacitate without wasting energy. The remaining operatives hesitated, their confidence shaken. Alexander capitalized on their uncertainty, triggering an electromagnetic pulse device he had hidden earlier. Their cloaking devices flickered and failed, leaving them exposed. The corridor was suddenly alight with chaos as the assassins scrambled to regain control. Alexander picked up a fallen weapon, his grip steady. He fired a single shot, not to kill but to disable the lights overhead. In the ensuing darkness, he became a phantom, his movements silent and lethal. By the time the emergency lighting activated, the operatives were unconscious, their weapons scattered. He stood amidst the aftermath, his expression unreadable. Adjusting his suit, he activated a communicator. Incident contained, he reported calmly. Proceeding as planned. Before leaving, he ensured there was no trace linking the attack to the Empire. The droid's memory core was wiped, the assassin's weapons dismantled. He left them in a secure compartment, where station security would find them and draw their own conclusions. Returning to the conference hall, Alexander was the picture of composure. The Empire's delegation watched him closely, confusion flickering in their eyes. They had no idea their operatives had failed, no understanding of the predator they had provoked. Alexander took his seat, his demeanor unchanged. As the negotiations began, his thoughts were elsewhere, calculating the next steps. The Empire had made their move. Now it was his turn. The conference table stretched across the hall, its surface gleaming under the soft glow of artificial lights. Representatives from numerous species sat in their respective places, their expressions ranging from wary to unreadable. Alexander took his seat calmly, placing a thin data pad in front of him. His posture was relaxed, his face unreadable, but his mind was a battlefield, already dissecting the room. The Empire's lead delegate, a towering figure with sharp, chitinous features, opened the proceedings with a tone of veiled disdain. "We gather here to discuss the balance of power within the galaxy," he began, his multifaceted eyes briefly locking onto Alexander. "Some have grown ambitious, forgetting their place in the order of things." Alexander tilted his head slightly as if considering the words. "Balance is maintained through cooperation, not coercion," he replied smoothly. "Surely the Empire understands this." A murmur rippled through the room. The delegate's mandibles clicked in irritation, but he pressed on. "Cooperation, yes. But it must be built on trust, and trust is earned through transparency. Humanity's rapid rise has raised concerns among many." Alexander leaned forward slightly, his gaze piercing. "Concerns or excuses? Humanity has always been transparent in its intentions. We seek stability, prosperity. If others perceive this as a threat, perhaps they should examine their own motives." The tension in the room thickened as the subtle barb hit its mark. The Empire's delegation exchanged uneasy glances. Alexander's calm confidence was unnerving, his words calculated to expose their duplicity without outright accusation. The lead delegate shifted tactics. "A noble sentiment, but actions speak louder than words. The Empire has observed certain irregularities in human diplomacy. Alliances formed under questionable circumstances. Technologies acquired too rapidly for comfort. One might even suspect subterfuge. Alexander's lips curved into a faint smile. Suspicions are not facts, delegate. And allegations without evidence undermine the credibility of the accuser. The room fell silent. Delegates from other species watched intently, some nodding in quiet agreement. Alexander had turned the conversation against the Empire with a precision that left them scrambling for a response. But he wasn't done. If we're to discuss trust, perhaps we should address recent events. His voice was steady, but there was an edge to it now, a subtle warning. For instance, the presence of unauthorized individuals aboard this station. Operatives who clearly have no interest in diplomacy. The Empire's lead delegate stiffened, his mandibles twitching. Are you implying something, Ivanov? Alexander's gaze locked onto the delegate, unflinching. I imply nothing. I state facts. A diplomatic mission compromised by covert aggression is not the act of a trusted partner. He let the words hang in the air, their weight pressing down on the room. The murmurs grew louder this time, several representatives exchanging worried glances. The Empire's delegation was visibly uncomfortable now, their carefully crafted facade beginning to crack. The lead delegate attempted to regain control. These are baseless accusations. Without proof they are meaningless. Alexander's smile widened, but it didn't reach his eyes. Proof? He tapped a button on his data pad, projecting an image into the air above the table. It showed the captured operatives, unconscious and disarmed, with their weapons neatly displayed. Station security discovered these individuals earlier today. Their equipment is interesting to say the least. The room erupted into shocked exclamations. The Empire's delegation froze, their composure shattered. Alexander waited for the noise to subside before speaking again, his tone calm but laced with steel. Humanity has no interest in escalating tensions. But we will not tolerate threats to our people or our representatives. The lead delegate struggled to respond, his voice faltering. This is a misunderstanding. Surely you can't believe the Empire would stoop to such actions. Alexander's expression hardened, the mask of diplomacy giving way to something far more menacing. I don't believe. I know. And I advise you to reconsider your strategies. Underestimating humanity has consequences. The room fell into an uneasy silence. Delegates from other species looked at the Empire's delegation with a mixture of suspicion and disdain. The balance of power had shifted, subtly but unmistakably, and Alexander had orchestrated it with masterful precision. The Empire's lead delegate finally spoke, his voice strained. The Empire remains committed to peace. We will investigate this matter thoroughly. Alexander nodded, the threat in his eyes now replaced with a veneer of calm professionalism. I'm sure you will. And humanity will continue to work toward stability as we always have. The meeting adjourned shortly after, but the atmosphere remained charged. Alexander left the hall with the quiet confidence of a man who had won without drawing a blade. The Empire had played their hand and Alexander had turned it against them. The game wasn't over, but humanity had made its position clear. Back aboard his ship, Alexander sat in his quarters, the faint hum of the vessel's engines a comforting backdrop. He leaned back in his chair, staring at the data pad on the desk before him. The images of the unconscious operatives, the dismantled weapons, and the Empire's flustered delegation played in his mind like a well-rehearsed performance. They had tried and they had failed, but this was only the beginning. He tapped a command on the pad, bringing up a series of encrypted reports from his intelligence network. The Empire's moves were becoming increasingly erratic, their desperation palpable. They were consolidating resources, amassing fleets near key trade routes, and strengthening their grip on subordinate species. Their strategy was clear: corner humanity before it could grow any stronger. What they failed to understand was that humanity thrived under pressure. Every attempt to suppress them only sharpened their resolve. Alexander smiled faintly, the expression cold and calculating. He had seen this before in countless conflicts. The more an enemy overreached, the more openings they created. Scrolling through the reports, he paused on a particular file marked priority. It contained intercepted communications between high-ranking Imperial officials. They were debating their next move, some advocating further covert operations, others pushing for open confrontation. The fracture within their ranks was widening, and Alexander intended to exploit it. A soft chime interrupted his thoughts. He glanced at the communicator on his desk. The face of Admiral Reyes, a trusted ally and commander of the human fleet, appeared on the screen. Ivanov, she began without preamble, we've received confirmation. The Empire is mobilizing near the Tri-Area system. They're testing us. Alexander nodded. They're trying to provoke a reaction.